As a young boy, I often heard this soft whisper in my mind telling me I was going to do something great, something remarkable, something unimaginable at that time. I didn't know what that voice meant, but I continued to follow that path my entire life. That battle cry was within me, and that's what I was hearing. It was my cry to get towards my purpose. It was my cry to charge the enemy. It was my cry to convince myself I wasn't the enemy. And it was my cry that is bringing us here today together to share our battle cries and to understand just what all that means in life. Sometimes it doesn't make sense, but we continue to listen to that voice, that inner power, that inner charge to just keep going, to take the hill, not knowing what our hill is, but trusting ourselves to get up that hill. That is our battle cry. And today I'm starting my journey of sharing mine. Welcome to the Battle Cry. This is episode 1. In this episode, it's more of an introduction of who I am, what the Battle Cry is all about, and kind of just looking back at my past. I've written this down. This is also the start of my book, so I'll be going deeper into several of these things in separate episodes of my podcast and here on YouTube. But for now, it's more of an introduction of my childhood, the brewing of that battle cry when it first started when I was a kid, sometimes recognizing it throughout my life, sometimes ignoring it, sometimes disregarding it, sometimes listening to it carefully and following what it had to tell me, and other times completely off the path of where I should be going and what that little whisper was trying to tell me. Sometimes it was a whisper, sometimes it was a roaring, loud voice, or a screaming charge towards an enemy, towards an objective, towards a goal, or sometimes just running away from life. And that was my battle cry at times, where I was running back down the hill and retreating, surrendering. It wasn't complete surrender, because here I am. I feel like I'm stronger and more in tune with who I am now than I ever have been in my life. But it really took what I'm about to talk about here for me to journey this whole path in my life to get to where I am today. And I always tell people, you are not here on accident. You are exactly where you're supposed to be, because everything had to happen and fall into place and completely aligned to get to where you are today. If one thing was slightly off or had changed throughout my life or your life, we wouldn't be to where we are today. We wouldn't be doing what we're doing today. We wouldn't be thinking the way we think today. It just takes one slight turn of event. And in these events that I'm sharing with you today, they're going to be not into detail, but more of just the 20,000 foot view for now, and diving deeper into each episode as we go into this. I'll dissect the entire intro here into other podcasts, and I'm excited to share this with you. I've been running away from my past for way too long, and I've been ignoring those voices. I've been ignoring people asking me, begging me to share my story. I've shared bits and pieces of things that have happened in my life, and people are just flabbergasted and just amazed at I take a licking and keep on ticking, basically. That's how I can summarize my life. We all have very tough things happen to us. That's part of life. We all have interesting things happen to us. That's the uniqueness of you and I. Some people have more tragedy and trauma than what they deserve, or what they should be dealt with in the cards, but that's part of life. And it took me a long time to stop pretending I was the victim and be appreciative that I was a receptor to a lot of these events. The receptor to help me understand and have more empathy for more people in life. And so I'm very blessed and grateful. Though it hurts, there's some shame, there's some, some resentment, some revenge. But there's also good things that happened because of some of these bad things that took place in my life, or some of these not so planned things that happened to me. So I'm finally to that point where I'm letting it all go. And the battle cry is letting it all go. This is what I consider just not holding the reins, not building up those big tall walls, not running away from my problems, not burying them deep in the sand or tucking them away in my mind. This is bringing everything forward, good, bad, and the ugly. And this is my battle cry. So it starts out like this. What is the battle cry? And this is what I consider the battle cry. It's where the echoes of resilience and the enduring call to overcome life's battles will resonate through our journey. I'm Andy Morris, and this is and in this episode, we'll embark on the journey through the chapters of my life, from the whispers of a young boy's dream to the relentless pursuit of purpose and resilience in the face of adversity. We can all agree that life is never without trials. I faced personal demons, danced with the brink of despair, and carried the weight of trauma, both seen and unseen. The feeling of giving up loomed, but there was a persistent whisper in my heart and soul urging me to keep going, to strive for something greater. In this episode, we'll journey the innocence of my childhood to the crucibles of war, from the depths of despair to the rediscovery of my purpose. It's a story of transformation, resilience, and the unwavering strength that resides within all of us. So join me on this exploration of the battles we face and the victorious battles cries that emerge from the depths of our souls. Together we'll uncover the power of perseverance, the beauty of rebirth, and the echoes of our shared humanity. This is the battle cry. As a child, my dreams were boundless. I found myself gazing at the night sky, imagining traversing the cosmos. I thought three things. I was either going to be an astronaut in the Army or an archaeologist. There was kind of three A's: astronaut, Army, archaeologist. There was another one that I thought I was going to be a baseball player, but that wasn't my true, for sure. I just knew one of the three of those were a for sure. And so I'd be gazing in the skies, looking deep into the galaxies, and just wondering, just daydreaming or night dreaming or exploring or opening up the imagination to where I had a lot of books on space. I had a poster of Halley's Comet. I followed our space launches. I was taken back by the Challenger explosion. That impacted me. I felt like I was there but yeah, space. I was wanting to be in space. Anything I could read about space, I would read. And then I love peering through my microscope, pondering the essence of existence itself. It was during these moments of youthful wonder that I felt an undeniable calling, a sense that I was destined for greatness and that I had a unique purpose in this world. So I would sit there with my microscope. I had a really nice microscope that my grandma gave me, that she got from the hospital she worked at when they upgraded microscopes and were selling off the old ones. She bought me one, and I was so grateful to have that. I went out and collected so many samples of different things. And one of my favorite things was to look at single cell organisms or microorganisms and just watch them up under the slide live. They live such a contained life, and I couldn't imagine living that contained life. And I often wondered, like, what would it be like to be a single-celled organism? To just have this single purpose in life, this single objective, and you weren't allowed or able to do anything outside of your objective. I couldn't imagine being that. I knew that was not my life. I saw a lot of humans live their lives like that, like a single-celled organisms, and I recognized that as a young kid, and I just could not picture myself doing that or even thinking about that. And it fueled the fire even more for me to want to go do something with my life as I got older. Yeah, man, my microscope, I forgot about that. I wonder if it is somewhere still. And so as we delve deeper into my early years, I can't help but smile when I think about my time as a Cub Scout and a Boy Scout. It was a chapter of my life filled with adventure, exploration, and the deep connection of nature. Being out in the wilderness, surrounded by towering trees and the songs of birds, was where I felt at home. That was where I felt most at peace, where I was able to collect my thoughts. And still to this day, that's my happy place, is being up in the mountains, being out in the forest, being out in the trees, just being one with nature. Being out in the wilderness surrounded by towering trees, that's what really put me at peace. It was during these scouting adventures that my love for nature and blossomed, and I discovered the profound peace that it could provide. In addition to my outdoor adventures, I was also an avid writer. I found relaxation, peace, creativity in putting pen to paper, letting my thoughts flow freely, and forming stories that transported me to far-off lands. Writing became a sanctuary where I could express my innermost thoughts and emotions. I even was told by some past girlfriends from elementary school that I wrote the best love notes, and some of them were kept throughout time. So that right there makes me smile thinking about that. But yeah, I guess I wrote some really good love notes as a young boy, a young man. In addition to my outdoor adventures and my writing, I was a problem solver. I was drawn to puzzles and challenges that tested my intellect. Whether it was solving riddles, tackling complex math problems, deciphering some codes, some of the code that was on different problem-solving pages, puzzles, places like on the Sunday paper or on the back of magazines. I loved solving those problems, figuring out that code. I thrived on the thrill of unraveling mystery and finding solutions. I loved thinking about why, and it drove my dad nuts when I would want to know why, because he was more of a person that said, because I told you so. And, no fault to his, but I was very inquisitive. I had to know why, not just because. Because was not good enough for me. So that often got me into trouble sometimes, drove my dad crazy, but it taught me a lot about the things I was curious about. And it brought me a lot further in life than I could have ever gone if I would have just settled for just because I told you so. And so thanks for that challenge. I also love baseball, and I truly thought that I was going to be a big thing in baseball. I thought maybe I could be a professional baseball player one day. I was good at hitting, good at throwing. I thought I was a good pitcher and good at catching, but I only played the game with friends and family out in the backyard or at friends' house, or, I never got to play in school or in summer rec. When I was in high school, I worked a lot as a young man, So I put sports to the side. I was in football one year, I was in cross country a couple of years, I was in track, and then I put it off to the side, and I picked the priority of working instead of playing sports. But I did think I was going to be a professional baseball player someday, and I loved watching baseball. One of my favorite memories of a kid was watching the 1987 World Series when the Minnesota Twins were in it, and they won it. I was just blown away, and I believe it was the Cardinals they played that year. Even though I loved Ozzie Smith, I loved the Twins more, and I was a baseball card collector. I collected a lot of baseball cards, some football, some basketball, but mainly baseball. And I have another episode that I'll share. I'll go deep into what baseball card collecting means to me. There were some not so good times with collecting and having baseball cards to some really good times, and I used collecting as an escape. It was my way of just forgetting about problems, sorting out all my cards, laying them out in my room, dreaming about having big dollars and having a baseball card store or selling baseball cards. But there was also some really bad times with baseball cards. So I'll be bringing that up in the next episode and share more of that. I'll go deep into that tragedy. And enough of that. It has haunted me for quite a bit of my life, even though I've continued to collect baseball cards and sell baseball cards on eBay and trade them with people. Even had a YouTube channel at one time and a company for sports cards. So I was in a baseball card movie. I was in a baseball movie. It was called The Little Big League. I made minimum wage, and that minimum wage was donated to our youth group in our church. But I got to be part of a movie. I was an extra. I carried a cardboard cutout around the Metrodome. It was a movie about the Minnesota Twins and how a young boy inherited it. If you haven't seen that movie, check it out. But when you look in the audience, every one of us, every other person in the audience was a cardboard cutout that we had to carry around that day and stick next to us. So, but hey, I got a lot of free hot dogs and a lot of free soda, popcorn at the Metrodome. Seeing baseball players. So what more could a boy ask for, right? And then there was drawing. It was a form of self-expression that allowed me to bring my imagination to life on canvas. I would spend hours sketching scenes from my adventures, capturing the beauty of the natural world and letting my creativity flow freely. I even sold a few of my drawings in elementary school to other students. And I wonder if they still have any of those 10-cent drawings they bought from me. So I used to love art, drawing, painting, chalk, acrylics. I was a pretty artistic kid. Loved art and writing, reading. These passions, these childhood loves, scouting nature, writing, problem-solving puzzles, the love of baseball, collecting my favorite sports cards, and drawing. They were the building blocks of who I would become. They were the whispers of my calling, guiding me towards a life of purpose and resilience, even when I faced the darkest of days. They were the elements that kept me going, even when the path seemed uncertain and the feelings of giving up threatened to take hold. So some of that childhood stuff, continued throughout my adulthood and as I grow older, and it's kept me youthful. It's kept me down to earth. Kept me tied to that same whisper, that same battle cry as I was a young boy. So, but like any other typical boy, my life was an ebb and flow of adventure and some misadventure as well. I chased after crushes, engaged in playful skirmishes and sometimes fights with other kids. I made choices that in hindsight didn't always align with my values. However, there was one constant in my life. I took every experience as a lesson, vowing never to repeat that same mistake. And I try to do that today. I try not to make the same mistake twice. I try to learn from things, recognize that I'm not perfect, that I will do things outside of what I expect out of myself. But the key is that I hone in on it, learn the lesson, and make dang sure that I don't make that same mistake twice. Beneath the veneer of my youthful exuberance, there were shadows. I learned early on to fear a man who played a role in bringing me into this world, and my mom and stepdad shielded my sister and me from his presence. This is a story that deserves its own episode, a tale of resilience in its own right. So I'll save this for another episode, but I had to live in hiding from my biological dad, and I'll go more into that. But that right there was just a killer when I found that out, that we had to live in hiding from him. He was such a dangerous and threatening person. In my early years, I danced with death more times than I could count. I faced so many near-death experiences when I was growing up. The grip of choking, the brink of drowning, and the reckless threat that posed by drunk drivers. I was almost killed by drunk drivers. I was almost killed in a lake. I felt the experience of drowning. I was choking on a piece of hard candy when I was 5 and went blue. So I know what it is to be right at the cusp of losing life and watching that life leave you. It definitely left big imprints on my life with all those near-death experiences. But there was another more insidious trauma that I carry in silence. It's a secret that's remained locked away for over 3 decades. Very few people know about it. My parents didn't know about it. They don't know about it. I'll be talking more to them about it before I go into depth with everybody here on YouTube. But this is something I felt like I've had to hide for years, and I'm pulling off the tape. Like, I'm not staying in silence on this any longer. This has been a distraction. This has held me down. I've ran from this for years, and I'm done running from this. And it may impact somebody. And he got away with it for years, but my silence is over. This too it'll be coming up in another episode, so stay tuned for that. But that's just part of me. It's part of my battle cry. Again, it is something that happened to me to put me to exactly where I am today. So that's how I'm processing it now. And I look forward to getting rid of that burden, getting rid of that baggage, and just sharing the real me. No longer letting that hold me down. So as we journey through this podcast and upcoming book, I will share the stories that led me from this formative years to the heart-wrenching front lines of genocide and the relentless battlefields of war. I'll go through just how those different experiences in the Army affected me, good, bad, and ugly. What it did to me as a person, and just how I live with my new normal because of all that. It almost broke me. It was trying to take me down, but that battle cry got stronger. So I was able to not listen to the voices outside that battle cry, that voice within me, that whisper, that will to live. And I'm here today because of it. Did try to bring me down. Returning from war, I was forever altered, burdened by the weight of what I had witnessed and what I've done. It was a struggle that would bring me to the edge of despair, with consequences that would reverberate through the lives of those I held dear. As we journey through this, you're going to learn more about me and just the burden that I hold. War's not easy for anybody. Some of the military trauma that you go through, PTSD, that was compounded by post or traumatic brain injury too from me. So I too now live, post Iraq with traumatic brain injury and different ways of thinking and different ways of doing my life and managing my life and just keeping me from giving up. My brain wants to be lazy, and I'll dive deep into that too in another episode of just what it's like to live with all that, plus having my brain broken. Like, it's not all there anymore, and I have to live with this, and I found ways to work around, and I'm an expert at working around and just finding out how to do it, or just doing it. So for nearly a decade, I had lost sight of the vibrant young boy who once lived for adventure and carried a calling to make the world a better place. But this podcast, The Battle Cry, and the book, it's going to be about more than just my story. It's about the universal experience of transformation, resilience, and the relentless strength that resides within all of us. This is not just my story and me trying to one-up, everybody that's living with trauma, burden, baggage, all the bad things going on, plus life still happening. We're all dealing with it. And the one thing that I remind myself is, if life was easy, we wouldn't be living. Every one of us are faced with hard times, hard things, and it's up to us on how we deal with that and how we become a better person on the other side of all that. So, as we conclude, I want our journey to be from despair to unity. It'll be marked by the stories of redemption and the rediscovery of purpose. Even in the darkest of moments, we'll find the healing and the rekindling of the flame that once burned within us. It's a story of rebirth, of the battle cry that unites us all. And I must share, after returning, this is, as I unfold this story, it's helping me, and hopefully it's helping you too, but it's really helping me just kind of lay everything out there and move on. So I'm looking forward to this. But before we part ways, I want to leave you with this. There was a time in my life when I found myself at what I would consider my rock bottom. Life was far from easy during those dark days, but it was in the crucible that I truly began to grow and embark on a journey of self-discovery. I realized that I was made for more than just surviving. I was meant to thrive. It was during those challenging times that I heard the soft whisper of my battle cry once again, echoing in the canyons of the pit that I had chose to live in. The echoes reminded me that the walls I had built around me were forcing out everything good in my life. Yet I was starting to see a glimmer of light, a spark of hope that I could overcome all of this and start living out my purpose in this world again. So as we embark on this journey together, remember that the echoes of resilience and the enduring call to overcome life's battles are all within all of us. Thank you for joining me today as we set the stage, the battle cry. Our stories, your stories, our shared humanity will be our guiding light through this journey. Stay tuned for episodes that will delve deeper into the various chapters of my resilience and my redemption. Together, we will explore the battles we face and the victorious cries that emerge from the depths of our souls. And I'll also be sharing other people's stories, so I'll have other people on here to share their stories and what their battle cry means to them. So I look forward to it, and thank you for tuning in today. And this is episode 1 of The Battle Cry, and I will see you again soon.